Are you ready for the next attack on your dental business? We begin our podcast right there.
Computers are live, mixer is up, levels are good. Equalizer is good, ready channels 1 and 2. Mic is live in 3, 2, 1, roll it. Welcome listeners to the My Practice, My Business podcast, where we teach dentists and their teams how to reclaim forgotten profitability in dentistry with our clinical business of dentistry training. And now, the host of our show, the clinical director at My Practice, My Business, Dr. Rob Thorup.
Hello there, podcast listeners. As I've been talking with colleagues across our beautiful country, there are several topics that have come up which I believe deserve some attention. I wish all of you wonderful listeners on our podcast could share your stories too, but unfortunately, this is not the platform for such discussion. Having said that, I hope this podcast will cause you to reflect on some, if not all, of our talking points today. First, the old way of cramming the schedule to be profitable isn't working too well. That was the first topic. Most practices have been taught to fill the schedule for peak performance. I know that was a big deal with every dental consultant that I ever worked with throughout my life. Schedule for the day was what we were taught, even if it meant bringing in patients the next day into your current day's hole in the schedule. Now, I still believe that. I still believe that's a good philosophy, but it's just not working out too well these days. When we keep our schedules tight with patients, what happens? Oh, that's right. Our reception area, called a waiting room in the old days, becomes packed with people. With any pandemic, that becomes taboo and can no longer happen with CDC guidelines, right? By making the schedule more conducive to our infectious pandemic, dental practices have had to throttle back their schedules, which has had a direct impact on daily production totals, right? Now what? Corporate cattle practices are suffering the worst. Next, followed by high production practices. Holy smokes! Who would have thought those small cottage practices with one dock and 3 or 4 chairs would have been the way to go with the least disruption in productivity? I want you to think about that. Okay, next is the PPE costs. The costs for personal protective equipment are all over the place. I believe misinformation is the biggest cost of goods when it comes to PPE. And what do I mean by that statement? Here's one example. I walk by offices on my way to my office in my building all the time, and I see plastic barriers in place in their reception areas. Maybe they didn't get the memo, but the CDC and your state health departments have stated that protective barriers or masks should be worn in dental offices when patients are greeted at the reception desk. It never said either are required. One or the other, okay? Only one or the other is recommended, not required. Do plastic barriers really make the patient feel better, or does it place an uncaring barrier of anxiety in their way? Yeah, I'll let you make that decision, right? All as I know is when I go to the grocery store, half the time I can't hear the soft-spoken cashier behind the plastic barrier. What do? I walk around. What'd you say? Maybe I'm just getting older. I don't know. Do I even need to get into the untested air filtration units, super suction units that engulf the patient, and the use of ultraviolet lights? In the end, I believe we are going to find that the baseline CDC guidelines were enough to protect ourselves from COVID-19. It sure is proving to be the case at the time of this writing. However, I'm not here to judge, and each office has to follow their own conscience. Just remember to make it grounded in science, just like you did in undergraduate school. And remember those business classes you had in college. Remember those? You know, the ones that taught you when you purchase additional equipment, implement additional protocols and measures that increase employees' time to enact, that those types of things increase your direct operating costs and need to be passed to the patient consumer just like any other business would do. Or maybe you are the dentist who enjoys watching your wages decrease again and again and again and again and again. If or when your staff tells you that the practice should just absorb those additional costs of goods, remind them that it's coming out of their wages and bonuses and see what their comments are after that. As of the date of me writing this podcast, putting it together, the ADA is still going after dental insurance companies on our behalf for you to be able to charge for PPE. Never in my life have I seen dental insurance companies go absolutely nuts when it comes to us, we dentists and our practices, capturing a small amount from our patients on each visit to help offset our PPE costs. Now, not all of them are having heartburn over this, but some are. And it started with Delta Dental of Washington, then it moved to Delta Dental of several states, as they're all independently owned, then went to Blue Cross, and now we are seeing some others that are trying to follow this pathway of flat out stating you cannot charge your patient directly for PPE. It's so wonderful that dental insurance companies are exempt from collusion and antitrust laws. It's wonderful that they can talk among each other and make our lives full of non-profitable grief. Let's hope that the ADA continues to push on that. I know years ago Dr. Kessler was working on that. Let's hope they can get the insurance companies to have to play by the same rules that other corporations have to follow, meaning they do have to answer to collusion, and they do have to answer to antitrust. We'll see what happens down the road. They're still working on it. Can you even imagine what life would be like if we had the same legal rights as those third-party payers? Maybe it's time for us to start some lobbying efforts. I know the ADA has been trying their best to overturn that McCarran-Ferguson Act, which you need to read about and understand it. This is important, folks. The McCarran-Ferguson Act is a United States federal law that exempts the business of insurance from most federal regulations, including federal antitrust laws to a limited extent. The McCarran-Ferguson Act, it was passed by the 79th Congress in 1945 after the Supreme Court ruled in United States versus Southeastern Underwriters Association that the federal government could regulate insurance companies under the authority of the Commerce Clause in the U.S. Constitution, and that the federal antitrust laws applied to the insurance industry. Didn't work. The McCarran-Ferguson Act does not itself regulate insurance, nor does it mandate that states regulate insurance. It provides that acts of Congress which do not expressly purport to regulate the business of insurance will not preempt state laws or regulations that regulate the business of insurance. Specifically, with respect to federal antitrust laws, it exempts the business of insurance. It exempts them as long as the state regulates in that area, with the proviso that that cases boycott, coercion, and intimidation remain prohibited regardless of state regulation. By contrast, most other federal laws will not apply to insurance whether the states regulate in that area or not. Have you ever felt intimidated or coerced or threatened to be kicked off their panel if they change their own contract on you without your consent? And you push back against them, like, I don't know, bundling buildups with crown procedures, right? And we don't push back on it. Yeah, that's the kind of crap that hopefully the ADA will put that to rest. And now you know why dentists are not profitable on so many procedures we do when it comes to insurance reimbursements. What makes me even more sad is that most dentists don't even know that they're not profitable. We have helped our clients get past this insurance crap on PPE but it's not been easy. And in defense of corporate dentistry, where profit margins are very slim, they have been our best advocates with the ADA in battling to charge for PPE, but it's still a battle. We'll see how long it goes on for. Bottom line, charge for it. It's costing you money, time, and resources to implement enhanced measures to be able to work these days. Charge for it. Push back. Create codes. They are non-covered services when you create a code. Learn verbiage that you can push back with them on. My gosh, they've gone nuts. It's almost like they want to destroy dentistry. So they can start socialized dentistry? It sure is interesting. Okay, the next topic is hiring the right peeps who won't leave. This is more of a struggle than any of us want to talk about. The youth of our nation, struggle from three major problems. And when I say youth, I'm talking about anyone born after 1980. Here are the three problems facing these two generations. One, sorry about my my voice. It'll hang in there, I hope, today. Number one, they simply do not know how to do hard things. And what do I mean by this? If I had $1 every time I had a parent tell me how much their kid grew up, changed, matured after a week of backpacking in the Wind River Range with our young men's groups, I'd be rich. People just want instant gratification without commensurate achievement to obtain their reward. They don't know how to earn greatness because it requires too much effort. It's too hard. They just don't know how to dig in when the going gets tough. That's what I mean by they don't know how to do hard things. Number two, they don't have work ethic. The Millennial Job Interview on YouTube, look it up, Millennial Job Interview, if you haven't seen it. On YouTube, it explains it best. Watch it. You'll laugh your guts out. I worked 6 days a week for my dad in the battery industry. That's right. I climbed uphill both ways to school. I'm one of those people. I worked 24-hour shifts 3 days a week when I worked in emergency medical services. I delivered newspapers, all of you, on weekends while in dental school for a period of time. That's right. I was a newspaper boy. I did what it took to be successful, as I'm sure many of you did too. Go listen to my podcast that talks about the types of employees, from 1-star to 5-star employees, and you'll get the picture. When you find a great employee, do all you can to keep them. What's really sad is you know who's got your back, you know who's loyal to the practice, you know who wants to put on their best show. When you have a pandemic, and then all of a sudden several of them don't want to come back. Yeah, I don't need to even go there on that one. Point number 3, they have not had enough significant away-from-home experiences. In other words, they haven't grown the hell up. You can't get angry with them when they screw up because they were never disciplined at home. That umbilical cord is still attached in so many different ways that it makes training them difficult at best. And even if the cord has been cut, the apron strings are still attached. I love the parents that cut their children off at 18 years of age. Those tend to be the best employees almost always. Next topic, the need for cross-training. If this pandemic has taught our clients anything, it's taught them the need to cross-train their staff. Why? Because so many of them have not returned back to work courtesy of the federal government. You know, the $400 a week on top of their state employment checks that far exceeds what you've been paying them. That's what they're making during the pandemic, okay? Well, hopefully the feds will stop that nonsense, which will get most people back to work. People without ethics suck from the government all they can. Do you really want to hire those types of employees back to work for you? I wouldn't. They chose this field to work in. When it comes to inherent risks, don't get me started. If you didn't want to be in dentistry knowing that spit's going to be flying in your face, Look at all the bacteria and viruses have been flying in your face all these years, right? And now it's like, well, Rob, this COVID thing is so super, it's just very virulent, and people are dying. I think we're going to be shocked when we see what the numbers really come out to be, because I don't know about your state, but we know that in our state, the numbers aren't correct, and I don't need to go there any more than that. With cross-training, you really don't care. Oh, by the way, it's not just our state. It's all the other states of the nation, too. Okay, with cross-training, you really don't care if they come back or not because everybody's cross-trained. Situations like the one we currently face here in 2020 tend to weed out the employees that maybe should have been gone long before. When an employee doesn't want to learn other people's jobs in the office, it tells me that they are not fully engaged in the well-being of the dental practice. Now, I'm not talking about them needing to take over the entire job. I'm talking about them knowing enough about the other person's job that if that person's truly out sick or on vacation or somewhere, the practice doesn't collapse because the office manager's not there. Remember, the practice is the star of the show. The rest of us are just supporting actors in that show. Next topic, PPO plans, changing their policies at will. And you didn't agree in the contract for that crappy policy change. We are seeing this often with the advent of PPE charges. Insurance plans are writing up new policies in their bylaws that you never agreed to, let alone signed for. If you say nothing, then they can claim you accepted their new policies. And if you complain, then you're at risk of being removed from the panel. In other words, it's their way or the highway, right? Well, what can be done when insurance companies create new policies that make it more and more difficult to be profitable with the procedures we perform? It's simple. You learn about their rules and regulations and your state regulations and your state laws that allow you to be profitable with materials, medications, and technology. You see, they can't rule those three. It truly is the only way that you can decrease your stress and make a great living instead of stressful, hope I covered the bills this month wage, right? So during this pandemic, with COVID-19, hospitals have learned to play the financial game that has become very upsetting to many of us who know their desired end game and the political ramifications that could follow. It's now common knowledge that hospitals make a significant increase in revenue when they report deaths as COVID-19 or when they place a patient on a ventilator. Simply follow the dollar, people, and any of you can learn how statistical data has been manipulated to make things look worse than they actually are. No, I'm not saying COVID-19 isn't a really bad bug, because it is with certain categories of patients. However, like the hospitals, dental practices need to learn their rights with insurance carriers in order to be profitable on the procedures that they perform. And when we talk about the insurance companies changing policies, it's just like them trying to tell you that you have to include the buildup with the crown. There are ways to push back. The next one, the supply shortage. I can't even get my favorite mask still. I think it's like from Alpha Protect or somewhere like that. If there is one thing I've learned, it's this. I will not run out of Charmin, Lysol spray, Lysol wipes, and the basic food groups like Diet Coke. I am going to slowly build up my supply so that no person can accuse me of hoarding these items all at one time. I'll just do it really slow. I'm sure that the next go-around will bring other types of shortages, but at the very least, sandpaper will not replace my favorite Charmin. A small word to the wise, Goal Zero gear. Goal Zero, Mountain House freeze dry or backpacking food, water storage, and candles. Just saying, this whole pandemic could have been much worse. We need to think about what supplies were difficult to acquire during these last few months and make sure we stock up on them for the next time that a pandemic or something comes around. Again, are you ready? Will you be ready for the next one? The next topic, no infection control standardization. Another thing that we noticed that we talked about with our colleagues is with over 15 states that we have clients in, was this. The CDC deferred to the state health departments for protocols for dental offices, and the state health departments often deferred to the CDC. For months, not one of them had a clear-cut directive for reopening our dental practices. Oh, wait, we still, as of this podcast, of this writing, only have recommendations and not mandates for infection control protocols. That's actually a good thing, though. I love the statements the representatives made from their respective departments of health from all your states out there that we talked to. Two of them especially. They went something like this. You dentists have some of the best infection control protocols being currently used in all the medical fields with patient care. We honestly aren't too worried with all of you in dentistry because of the way you treat everyone as if they are infected. That actually had a valid point. During the AIDS pandemic, we were taught to treat everyone as if they had the disease. Are we not treating all of our patients as if they have the coronavirus? Of course we are. And that's why they love us, okay, the state health departments. Next topic. Most dentists work month to month with little to no savings. Uh-oh. Boy, did we just touch a hot topic there. This is more common than I want to admit. I know because for years I was spending all of my profits building my practice, my business, and the software that we have called My Dental Docs. Not to mention a couple of other software and business opportunities that I pursued at the time. It wasn't until the last 2 to 3 years that I have been able to put money away, folks, and that's what I'm talking about. You take that entrepreneurial drive, yeah. Many of you you'll also get that bug to be an entrepreneur like I've been plagued with all of my life. Take my humble advice and make money with dentistry. And if you really want to make money, come through one of our courses, right? Or come through our main course. Pay off all of your debt. Oh my gosh, I sound like Ramsey. And utilize 1/3 of your discretionary profits, not wages, profits to pursue other dreams. Just 1/3. Just know, most dreams do not pay off, you guys, and actually become nightmares, money pits, whatever you want to call them. And building a company takes longer than 7 years, like you read about in those books. I should know, as I, too, have read those business books that tell you 7 years is the magical number. It takes 7 years just to get stable, and another 7 years before you make any significant income while doing dentistry. My advice, stick to dentistry. If you want the best return on investment, oh my gosh, I sound like my CPA. That's what he told me years ago. Not saying that I don't love teaching dentists and their teams, because I do. I'm just saying that if I would have put all the entrepreneurial investment money in the stock market, you probably wouldn't even be listening to me today. Having said that, nothing is more rewarding than teaching all of you the clinical business of dentistry and seeing you be paid fairly for your hard work. Serving others brings a ton of joy to both Tracy and I, and that's why we do what we do more than anything. Next topic. I hope you guys got that savings point there, okay? Next topic. Why were my practice, my business clients just fine during the pandemic? Because they simply have learned how to work smarter, not harder. They had money to put away for a rainy day. Oh my gosh, now I sound like my dad. Or a viral day, if it's not too early for me to say that. You see, most of the consultants out there teach you to work your guts out for a sliver of additional profitability, but not here at My Practice, My Business. I can't tell you how many emails. And all of you listening that are our clients today, I just want to say thank you. That meant so much to us. We received so many emails and texts and phone calls from our clients telling us how easy it has been, or easier, for them to financially weather this pandemic storm. Many didn't even go for the PPE loan, let alone the disaster relief fund. That is a testimonial in and of itself that Tracy and I were so proud of. Thank you. The real question is this: what will be the next disaster here in the U.S.? What turmoil awaits us in the near future? Will you be prepared, or will you be going month to month? And I don't care what disasters hit us. If you're prepared, you don't need to worry. And that's the key. Be prepared. Next topic. Why are MPMB clients recovering faster than others? That's another one. Because what we teach and help practices implement is so powerful, they quickly learn that they don't have to work their guts out by packing the schedule, which we talked about earlier. That's a problem. And because they change their thought leadership in how they practice dentistry, they realize they no longer have to run a less than profitable practice. And what's funny is you guys didn't even know you weren't profitable until you went through the course. By learning how to offer choice and how to legally, ethically, and morally charge patients for better options, they can practice the kind of dentistry they always dreamed of practicing. That's why our clients are recovering faster. If you haven't been through our training, you guys, put us to the test. Go to our website, check us out. I always give you, our listeners, bits and pieces of what we teach here at My Practice, My Business, but what you hear from me is only about 20% of our entire curriculum. We have 2 tracks to choose from with our training. You can pick either the morning track or the afternoon track. 4 hours a day for 5 days will change your life. It'll change your whole perspective on dentistry. It'll give you business training like you've never received before. If you're worried about the costs of downtime, let alone the tuition costs for our training, you shouldn't even blink an eye at it. The ROI hits you so fast. Let us give you a long list of references for you to call to verify that what we teach is real and without fluff. Ask them if the return on investment was worth it. Ask them if we truly do guarantee our training. Find out why all of us here at My Practice, My Business still do not have one unhappy client. Our Google reviews are real and unfiltered. Our customer service is second to none, thanks to Tracy and the team, mostly Tracy. Give us the opportunity to serve you and your team with easy to implement business principles that will financially benefit you, doc, and your wonderful employees, while promoting oral health care that benefits your patients in ways you've never before been taught in dentistry. As I told you earlier, we love serving, and we hope to be able to serve you in the near future. Thank you so much for tuning into the My Practice, My Business podcast. You can find additional podcasts you may have missed that will help you with your dental practice at Apple iTunes Podcasts. And remember to become a subscriber to our podcast. Many of you have asked how to help support the My Practice, My Business podcast. If you have enjoyed the program and information you received today, the best way to help is to leave us a 5-star review. Thanks again for allowing us to be a part of your day.